Hello, Internet. I am back with another, well, radio show review, I guess we can call it, or I'm discussing a radio show. I hope everyone's had a great weekend. I know I did, and I hope that the Monday blahs are not getting you down, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I said we would try to be here Monday, and we are. All right. So, as you saw from the title, I will be discussing the radio show Dangerous Assignment. I will only be focusing on the radio show as that's what I've listened to, and there is a television show, but that's beyond the scope of what we're doing here. This program, I guess we'll call it. So yeah, uh, the show follows an American agent named Steve Mitchell as he goes on a variety of missions, and it ran from 1949 to 1952. Oh, 1953 actually. Yep. Anyways, think the show I would guess is like think James Bond, but in a 30-minute episode. Um, the agency that Steve works for is kind of hard to determine. Um, he has these credentials that he can show anyone, and they're widely recognized, and they can have his identity verified really easily. It suggests that he works for a more public facing organization rather than some sort of fictional predecessor to the CIA or something like that. This agency is well known to like police forces everywhere across the world, and Steve is often able to get like support from friendly police services. They'll help him apprehend a criminal or give him information about the people he's trying to track down. Um, this agency organization thing is led by a commissioner, the commissioner, who gives Steve his missions. And for most of the missions, the cover that Steve would use is that of a traveling journalist. The reason for this being that a journalist asking questions and being nosy would not attract attention, as journalists often attack. Blah, my operator is terrible. Uh, Journalists often ask questions, and them investigating and looking into things would not attract any attention. Try not to keep screwing up, man. Makes me look bad. Anyways, the nature of these missions actually reflected the political situation of the time. As the series started before the Cold War, the missions were centered around protecting supplies that were being sent to Europe as part of the Marshall Plan. For those of you who are unaware, the Marshall Plan was a plan led by the United States to help rebuild Europe after World War II. A lot of people were displaced, homeless, and without food, and the Marshall Plan was created to help solve these issues. The missions usually centered around food and building materials and the people and businesses responsible for them. Um, Other episodes would center on the post war world and all the issues arising from the devastation of war, such as people that were displaced by the war and criminal enterprises trying to take advantage of them. After the start of the Cold War, however, the missions took a noticeable change. These missions centered around on the happenings and the efforts of quote other national powers and interested parties. That was like the saying that they used to say Soviet Union without saying Soviet Union. And these were like campaigns to spread influence, gather information, help allies out, that sort of thing. But another interesting type of mission that Steve would go on would be to deal with apprehending international criminals. These missions usually involved smugglers, traffickers, other forms of racketeering, um, influence peddling, that sort of thing. It was quite a wide range of different types of international crime he would go after. Um, the series would visit many different localities, like across the world, and the limited cast they had for this was able to do a pretty good job of depicting the different locals in these regions, like doing non-stereotypical accents, but accents that would be appropriate for that area, and including sometimes like words and phrases and sayings from those localities to try and give it a touch of realism. So let's go for the good things about this show and the pros and why you should listen to it. The ads are not that bad. The show was, for the longest time, sponsored by a breakfast cereal. Their ads are not that bad. You don't have to, they're not annoying to listen to. They're not peddling something dangerous for your health, like cigarettes. I do not like cigarette ads. Um, yeah. So you don't have to worry about like listening to terrible ads that while you're trying to work or trying to fast forward through them if you can't do that based on the job you're doing. But yeah, so the ads aren't that bad. Um, Another pro is that the episodes are pretty different from each other. You won't be dealing with many same sounding episodes. Uh, while there are big cases that involve cloak and dagger missions of the Cold War, they are usually balanced out by more mundane missions to track down resources, protect companies, solve a murder, rescue a kidnapped person, that sort of fun stuff. The differing locales also provide a great deal of variety in the stories, and they also make good use of reoccurring characters. The greatest of those, in my opinion, is a character known as Lord Byron. Um, he's a musician and poet from Trinidad whose music and quick thinking help Steve survive, and his songs are like humorous and quite amusing. I like it. Also, it was a long lasting series. There are almost 200 episodes, and as such, you won't run out of episodes really quickly. So that's good. Now, the cons. It's very out of date. Um, Countries that are referenced no longer exist. Many issues of the day that are referenced are like barely remembered historical facts, and the circumstances depicted in many countries are no longer the case. Many countries are depicted as mainly agrarian societies, are now filled with like large cities and modern towns. It's not a modern interpretation of many of these nations. Now let's move on to could it be created today? Yes. It was not hard to do this show. Like, it wouldn't be very hard to do because it was like spearheaded by the main actor who played Steve Mitchell, Brian Donlevy, and it was written by a very small team. And it would be very simple to get together a team similar to this and bring it into the modern era. Um, yeah, and it wouldn't be expensive to do because, well, this radio show was able to do a lot with not a big budget and could be done easily today, I would think. Also, the modern era would allow for the telling of a wide range of new stories. Um, Given the rise of human trafficking, that could be an issue that a new modern show could examine. Stuff like that. So yeah, I think overall this is a pretty good show. It's it sort of faltered later on. The TV show was sort of beaten out by other better spy thrillers and stuff like that. But still, I think it's pretty good. It's interesting. It's neat. You're not going to be bored. There's a lot of action in it. Uh, yeah. Sort of my thoughts on the show. Thank you for coming and listening. We'll keep these up and so you can watch them later, of course. So yeah, overall, good show. Anyways, I think I've run out of steam. No technical difficulties this time around, and we tried new sound, so we're hoping that turns out well. We've tested it, and it sounded great. So yeah, thank you for coming, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.